there's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites.
Number 24 is content farms in Macedonia.
Бидејќи ако се направи грешка, таа ќе биде кобна. Нема враќање назад.
So Europe need to remain more sexy lady in the world. Ajde, majkata!
Господа ја чува Македонија и низините граѓани.
I had a major storm come in last night. I love these winter storms because 2:30 in the morning I was woken up by thunder and lightning.
What, in the desert? Seriously?
Just in the desert in the winter. Yeah, you normally don't get that. So thunder and lightning and then a huge rainstorm. It was it was glorious. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Actually, the only better thing than thunder and lightning and rain in the middle of the winter, especially at night, is thunder and lightning and snow. Snow. I don't know if have you ever experienced that?
Don't push it too far. I mean, I don't think we have storms with snow usually. It's calm when the snow falls, isn't it?
Normally, but I have been in the mountains here in southern Arizona in the winter, and it's snowing, and there's already been there's snow on the ground, and another storm comes through, and there's thunder and lightning and snow. That is probably one of the most glorious, fantastic sights, sounds, situations to be in.
I can imagine. Well, we're moving into spring here. It's winter has come and go with just maybe like a few days of snow and obviously a few weeks of air pollution, which I think you were here for a little bit.
I was.
You got the worst of it, I think.
So. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I filled up my lungs, which is why I came home with a cold. But oh well, I'm getting over that. So.
That will teach you not to come here in winter.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, momentous events. Events.
Yeah.
Events, dear boy. Events. As was it Harold Macmillan, the British Prime Minister, I think. Anyway, let's. Shall we have ourselves a podcast? Let's do this.
Maybe you can announce us.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1. Earlier this week, Talat Xhaferi, a member of the DUI party in Macedonia, a former so-called Speaker of Parliament, Defense Minister, and member of the Macedonian army turned terrorist in 2001, became the interim Prime Minister of Macedonia for the next 100 days. For the next 24 hours, ethnic Albanians from everywhere shouted "Albanians uberalis" on social media platforms, bragging and crowing about the fact that Macedonia has an ethnic Albanian Prime Minister for a short time for the simple reason that he is an ethnic Albanian. Some called this, quote, an Obama moment, unquote, without realizing how race relations in America deteriorated during Obama's term in office. The next stunt for the ethnic Albanian politicians in Macedonia was for the opposition parties to visit, wait for it, the Prime Minister of Kosovo, and demand that Macedonia have an ethnic Albanian president after the upcoming presidential elections in Macedonia. Now, these people are either cowards, clowns, or cocaine addicts. We'll discuss all this and more in this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the Catalina Mountains, the snowy Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvitin Čilimanov in Skopje, the capital of the third Albanian state in the Balkans. In Skopje, I should
Albanians
say.
Uberalis!
Yeah, they're really out there.
Bloody hell. Yeah, I'll tell you. I'm not sure where to begin. I mean, I jotted down some notes and we had some back and forth going on this. I think this is episode 167, I believe. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
167 of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. And today we're recording this on Friday, February 2nd, for our American listeners, Groundhog Day. But it's neither here nor there. So earlier this week, Talat Xhaferi became the interim Prime Minister of Macedonia because of the vagaries of the Macedonian political system and the agreements that SDSM and DUI had some time ago, etc. So he's Prime Minister for the next 100 days. Albanians are crowing and bragging about it, etc. Let's start here. I want to address the Obama moment that a number of Albanians talked about. So the funny thing was with two things. When Obama was president, he was president for 8 years. A CNN poll said that this is during the middle of his term, 54% say relations between blacks and whites have gotten worse since Obama became president, including 57% of whites and 40% of blacks. Gallup poll. Barack Obama was supposed to be a biracial leader who could heal the nation's racial wounds and bring the country together. But since he took office, national tensions over race have gotten worse than ever, with the share of Americans who worry a lot about race relations soaring to 35% from a bottom of 13% just after Obama took office, according to a shocking new Gallup poll. Now, that's race relations. We're talking about ethnic relations, something similar but different, etc. And that's Obama after 4 years of office. I guess the good news is that Talat Xhaferi will only be in office for 100 days. But I don't think that ethnic relations between Macedonians and the minority Albanians will improve during his time. Then I want to address this other issue before we kind of get into the real local politics, and you've got some good insights on that, I think, of the ethnic Albanian opposition parties going to Kosovo and meeting with Albin Kurti, the Kosovo prime minister who has his own issues with Tirana, with Washington, with everybody. And they demanded that the next president of Macedonia be an ethnic Albanian. Why? Because he's an ethnic Albanian. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, who are these people? It's just kind of, where is the Albanian Thomas Sewell or Tim Scott or Ben Carson or Leo Terrell? And those people, for most of our listeners, I said those names, most people have no idea who they are. Tom Sewell, renowned American economist, in his 90s, churned out many, many books. He started out as a Marxist in college. Now he's a conservative. He happens to be black. Okay, big deal. Tim Scott, senator from South Carolina, wonderful conservative senator. Hard life, raised by a single mom. Also happens to be black. Ben Carson is literally a brain surgeon. It's just kind of, served under Donald Trump, Leo Terrell, attorney, civil rights leader. These men are all black. But you know what? What Douglas Murray, the British intellectual and author, says, I think the color of your skin is the least interesting thing about you. And when it comes to ethnicity, I also think, to be honest, your ethnicity really it's the least interesting thing about you. I want to know who you are as a person, what you believe, what you do, what you think, what drives you, what are your core interests. If your qualification for being president of the United States is that you're black, or the prime minister or president of Macedonia is that you're an Albanian, that makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, it's just kind of, it defies everything that we as conservatives at least believe. Maybe that's what the progressive left in Macedonia and the progressive left in America and elsewhere thinks is important. I mean, that's the only qualification. It's just kind of, but where is the Albanian Tom Sewell, Tim Scott, Ben Carson, Leo Terrell? Where is somebody from the ethnic Albanian community in Macedonia who will stand up and say, you know what? I don't care if we have an ethnic Albanian or an ethnic Macedonian or an ethnic Turk or a Roma or whoever as the prime minister or the president or whatever. The important thing is that he or she be competent and have the interests of all of Macedonia's citizens in mind and protect Macedonia, etc., etc., etc. I don't see anybody amongst the ethnic Albanians in Macedonia who would fit that description. If I'm open to correction. As a conservative, I am open to correction. I'm not right on most things, but let me know. Listeners, tell me, who is the ethnic Albanian Tom Sewell or Tim Scott or Ben Carson or Leo Terrell?
One exception that justifies
all right,
the
I think
rule,
I've been ranting now for several minutes.
Would be Jivdet Khaireddini, the person who was finance minister back in the day, like 30 years ago maybe. And he's the one who would come out and say that Ahmeti is corrupt, that he offers nothing to the Albanians except nationalist politics, but he's the only one. I mean, everybody else, there's one kid in Levica, maybe we can count him in, like Albanian who joined the Levica party. But, I mean, it's very difficult to say because they're in a pitch of nationalist, maximum exposure, maximum success of their nationalist cause. They're making gains they could not imagine possible like 10, 20 years ago. And it's very difficult to stand against this when your nation is progressing tremendously. Even Rama, in his message of congratulations to Ali Ahmeti to the appointment of Talat Xhaferi as prime minister, he said, you may criticize him, some of you criticize him, something along those lines, but you cannot take it away from him that he has achieved tremendous things in the country in the sense of grabbing power. So, you have to be an idiot.
Literally grabbing power, yes. Yeah.
I mean, Rama didn't say grabbing power, but it's understood that you cannot. Rama said something like elevating the Albanians to equal status, but it's not equal. It's they're equal in the government, so the government is now evenly split between Macedonians and Albanians, depending if we count Maricic, who is a Serb, Montenegrin, I don't know, as a Macedonian, but this is twice higher representation of Albanians if we count their share of population, or even more than twice. Even the former members of government, they obviously did not show up for the photo op, for the family photo. So we had like 10 Albanians against 7 Macedonians, something like that on the picture. It really looked, shocking. But I mean, it really have to be, when you're seeing your team, your nation achieving such huge successes, how could you, go against it? Extremely unpopular.
I think let's take a step back for a minute and kind of remind everybody who Talat Xhaferi is. And I think this is one of the underlying reasons why there's so much opposition to him as even the interim prime minister amongst Macedonians. Our friends from UMD, United Macedonian Diaspora, put out a piece yesterday, and they had a pretty good bio. I'm just going to read it it's real quick here. Talat Xhaferi, born in the village of Tirana, Kosovan, undertook his primary education in Čekiran before embarking on a military training journey at the Yugoslav Infantry Military Academy in Belgrade and Sarajevo. Returning to Macedonia after its independence, he ascended to the rank of senior officer in the Macedonian army, eventually assuming command of infantry units in the Tetovo barracks. However, the pivotal moment in Xhaferi's history unfolded on April 28, 2001, during the armed conflict between the Macedonian security forces and the so-called National Liberation Army, UCHICA. Xhaferi, then known as, quote, Commander Tirana, unquote, deserted the Macedonian army to join the UCHICA, allegedly responsible for the Vece massacre, killing 8 Macedonian soldiers that occurred on the same day on April 28, 2001. A year later, Xhaferi transitioned into politics only after the Macedonian parliament passed an unconstitutional 2002 amnesty law under pressure from the U.S., the EU, shielding Xhaferi and other war criminals from prosecution. He went on to become defense minister. He was elected, so-called, as parliamentary speaker under very shadowy circumstances in 2017. For me, this is almost like, Jefferson Davis. Most listeners will not know the name Jefferson Davis. Jefferson Davis, however, was the president of the Confederate States of America. He was the Secretary of War, which we today would say the Minister of Defense, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War under President Franklin Pierce. He was a U.S. Senator from Mississippi. After the secession, he became President of the Confederate States of America. After the South lost the war, Jefferson Davis was imprisoned for a few years, stripped of his citizenship, but granted amnesty later. His citizenship was restored in 1978, 110 years later. But for me, the thing is, if Jeff Davis had, served a prison, then amnestied, like Talat Xhaferi was, apparently, then goes on to become president of the United States, I mean, to me, that's what this is similar to. If Ali Ahmeti could have chosen anybody else from DUI, but he chose Talat Xhaferi. I'm not sure who would have been worse, thinking aloud right now. Would it be Artan Grubi or Talat Xhaferi? But, Artan Grubi was just a punk snot-nosed kid in 2001. Well, actually, come to think of it, he's still a punk snot-nosed kid right now. But I don't even think he was 18 in 2001. He may have been. But anyway, Talat Xhaferi literally deserted the Macedonian army. He was sworn to defend the Macedonian state. He was fighting alongside his Macedonian army comrades of whatever ethnicity, And then he's pointing the gun out from the barracks at the Uchika, and then he went to the other side and pointed his gun in, and as the UMD bio there said, probably responsible for the Veche massacre. I mean, that I think is what so many Macedonians object to, is the fact that this literal turncoat, traitor, deserter is now, for a brief time, the interim prime minister of Macedonia.
He's more like a Benedict Arnold in your history, I guess, than Jefferson Davis.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully his cause ends like Arnold's. It definitely led to an outburst of national accomplishment, national success, national destiny. We are achieving our national destiny. Albanians already had a third prime minister in the region, so they have the prime ministers of Albania and Kosovo, the two currently nation states of the Albanians in the region. For a year, they had the prime minister of Montenegro, Dritan Abazovic. So he was the first third Albanian prime minister in the region. We expected that Macedonia will provide this statistical data point, but it was Montenegro. But Montenegro is trending in a different direction. They have the fight there is between the Serbs and Montenegrins, whose identity will prevail. They have a census to decide this issue. The Albanians are a smaller minority there. They are appealing to a sliver of Montenegro, but not to partition the country in two, or control the whole country, as Albanians in Macedonia do. So in Macedonia, it might be a more longer-lasting feature. So we have. So you said that this government will be only a technical government for 100 days. I saw today on Twitter Vistino Mer, the US aid-funded Media Matters spin-off.
Is that our friend, the drunk? What's his name?
Philip? Is he a drunk? No.
Oh, he's a major.
Oh, you mean Vladimir? Yeah.
Vladimir.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vladimir. Yeah.
So they have an explanation that it's nothing. We are falsely presenting this as the end of the world. It's just, as you said, an audit in the law, so it's just a technicality. But first of all, we had an experience where the first technical prime minister, Emil Dimitriev, appointed instead of Gruevski as part of this package that US and the EU insisted we accept during the Colored Revolution. He was prime minister for quite some time. I mean, as the elections kept being postponed, maybe for a full year even, I think. So it's possible that we have problems with the elections if war, epidemic starts, if we cannot form a government after the elections. That's also a very strong possibility if the result is inconclusive, or if VMRO wins convincingly, but the US Embassy pressures the Albanian parties not to form a coalition with VMRO. This could also be a problem. So Xhaferi could be a prime minister for a long time. Then there is now a strong rumor that SDSM is desperate for the Albanian vote. They already promised the prime minister for 100 days, the prime minister position. The Albanian parties all constantly want something more. The only thing they haven't received so far is the post of interior minister, which is possibly even stronger than the post of prime minister. Reportedly, SDSM was offering them that they divide the 4-year term in half, so that DUI has the prime minister in the first 2 years, so then we could have a proper politically elected Albanian prime minister for the first 2 years, for 2014-2015, 2024-2025, and then only afterwards SDSM takes over with a prime minister of their own. So it's not nothing, it's not a minor curiosity, it's reflective of the very real, very actual takeover, power grab of Albanian parties, Albanian politicians in Macedonia, of Macedonian institutions, and of the overall course of the country. And this DSM is desperate to allow this to continue happening, because otherwise they're going to lose the elections. There was a poll on the Macedonian television yesterday 2-to-1, even more, I think even more than 2-to-1 ratio between Woomera and SDSM, which means disaster, means landslide for Woomera. So they desperately need to have DUI join them in a pre-election coalition with joint lists, but also possibly a joint candidate for a prime minister. So we could be stuck with this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I want to. This really bugs me though, especially living in America and seeing our race relations here, and then comparing it to Macedonia, etc. I'm reminded of author and satirist, the late great P.G. O'Rourke, that said, "Everybody wants to change the world, but nobody wants to help with the washing up." And I think that's reflective of Macedonia's ethnic Albanians. They all want these positions, but they don't want to deal with the nitty-gritty issues that affect the citizens of Macedonia, including ethnic Albanians, ethnic everybody. You know, basic infrastructure, education, healthcare, and we can talk about healthcare and what's happened under DUI, and as well as education. Garbage pickup, electricity, water, all these things. They have no interest in dealing with real-world, real-life issues that affect the citizens, even their own constituency. And that's because they all want to be at the top. They all want these positions, but they actually don't want to deal with the nitty-gritty issues of actually governing. That's what bugs the bloody hell out of me with these people. And so many of and the other thing, sorry, to continue on my rant, is that basically these people are victim mongers. You know, the ethnic Albanian leadership, just like the quote unquote, black leadership in America, not the black leader, but the leftist black leadership, whether it's Ibram X. Kendi, whose real name is Henry, by the way, or the so-called Reverend Al Sharpton, who is definitely not a reverend, or the other one, Jesse Jackson. These are all victim mongers. They basically say to their constituencies, and it falls upon the ears of poor black Americans and others, is that you people are stupid. You people are ignorant. You people can't do anything for yourself. Vote for us. Give us power. Shore up our NGO system, etc., etc., and then we'll get everything done for you. And they're shakedown artists. They're race baiters, and it's a mirror image, I think, of the ethnic Albanian leadership in Macedonia. They're victim mongers. They're shakedown artists. They don't care about their constituency.
Cry bullies.
It just bugs.
Cry bullies is usually what we use for them.
Yeah, exactly. It just bugs the bloody hell out of me. Anyway, okay. Slightly, I want to get into the Albanian opposition, the ethnic Albanian opposition in Macedonia, and Kurti and all that. But before that, I want to address one issue which I find interesting from a couple of different perspectives. So, on I think it was Monday when Xhaferi became quote unquote interim prime minister, David Greer, I always forget how to pronounce which. The EU ambassador gave his congratulations on Twitter, on the Twitter sphere. The U.S. ambassador did not, and I haven't seen anything on Twitter from here. But there is this so-called letter. It looks on X. It says Embassy of the United States of America, Office of the Ambassador. It's in the Albanian language, and it's addressed to Xhaferi, and it's supposedly signed, Angela. I don't know if it's real or not. It seems to have
posted on a Facebook group which has been operating for a long time, has a lot of followers, and has Talat Xhaferi's name. It's solely dedicated to Talat. So it looks legitimate at first glance.
Right.
My confusion in the letter was that she congratulates him on becoming the first Albanian prime minister of Macedonia, which I don't think she would. In any case,
she wouldn't make that mistake.
Yeah, she wouldn't go that far. That sounded fake. And then if you inspect it's a hell of a lot of effort to build up a Facebook page like this, and then destroy it for one manipulation of this kind.
For a buck.
Yeah, it looks like a long con. It's possible that this will be used. Weeks later, or maybe any moment now, to have an extensive attack on the right that we are peddling misinformation, fake news, because a lot of people fell for this because actually it looks believable, not only because it's something that the US Embassy would do. I mean, what the US Embassy is pushing, having the Albanians run the country and appointing an Albanian prime minister. But Angela just came out yesterday in an interview, again demanding that Vamara practically commits to changing the constitution, so practically commits suicide before the elections.
Right.
I mean, both her and Jim O'Brien are openly rooting for DUI and SDSM to continue in power. Jim O'Brien, when he was here, he said the Albanian parties should keep in mind the issue of unity, do not divide the votes. He was literally telling the Albanian opposition not to challenge DUI, not to upset the DUI SDSM apple cart in the elections. So it's very plausible that this is their message they're giving privately. And the amount of effort that went into creating this fake Facebook page looks like a long con. Also, there was a video yesterday or the day before when Xhaferi came to his, I don't know if it's Gostivar or his village near Gostivar, and he's welcomed by a bunch of men in like lined up like soldiers almost, lighting football torches. And in the background...
Tiki torches?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Vamara does this as well. Everybody does this in the Balkans.
Yeah.
But in the background, you can hear... It does look a lot of nationalist. Like, he was a officer in the Uchaka, so the people lined up for him. You know, it looks very militaristic. Impression you would not get with a Macedonian politician. And then in the background, you can hear a sound going Kosovo, Albania, Ilirida, the name they would use for Macedonia. Yeah. Then Chameria, the part of Epirus, which Albanians claim in Greece, and Malizi, Montenegro. But it's noticeable that the chant is too loud, like it's too many people compared to what actually showed up for him in his, I guess, by now depopulated village. And the sound is fake. Yeah, the video is correct, is accurate. The sound is from a different Albanian nationalist event, probably a football stadium or some protest. So yeah, we have these things which are obviously spread a lot. And then the fact checker, the left-wing fact checkers came out. They came out against the Serbian media, which obviously said, look at Macedonia. They have an Albanian prime minister. This country has gone to the dogs. Obviously a message the Serbs like to put out, as they are also now facing a colored revolution. So let's check in on the neighboring country which had a colored revolution. Let's see how that worked out for them, which is very legitimate. And the fact checkers say, no, it's fake because it's all in accordance with the law. Or he might just be there for a short time. Not necessarily, as I said, but so we will have the fact checkers out in force for the elections, just as SDSM is so down in the polls, and they will need all the help they can get from the embassy and the USAID programs.
Well, shouldn't the U.S. government, U.S. taxpayer-funded fact checker there check out this letter?
The embassy has not addressed this. Media outlets have not addressed this. We were just left to speculate on Twitter.
It would be nice, though, if since the Truth Meter group, seems to do these things for, that's what their mandate is. It would be good for them to try and check this out.
They're letting us comment on this without clarifying, and then I think they will be like, okay, yeah, look at all this fake news, all these people. We have to remove them from Twitter, Facebook, wherever.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Anyway, let's, I want your take, because you know this far better than I, and I think our listeners would be interested in it, the Albanian opposition ethnic Albanian opposition parties in Macedonia, vis-a-vis the relationship with DUI, with Kurti, with Rama, with all of these, as we talked about in our offline chat before the podcast, the petty pashas of the region that are all fighting for their little slice of the pie.
Yeah, it's very funny, the fact that Ali Ahmeti and Rama and SDSM are now protesting that an Albanian country is interfering in the Macedonian elections, picking winners and losers, that the people who created the Tirana platform in 2017 under which all the Albanian parties got together in Tirana under the auspices of Ali Rama, the prime minister, and of Brenner, the U.S., the CIA director. The CIA director was Brenner, right? Or the DEI?
Who?
The director of CIA.
When?
In 2016, 2017.
Oh, I can't remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, it was Brennan.
Brennan, the guy who came to Tirana.
Yeah.
And days later, we had the Tirana platform at the peak of the Colored Revolution, instructing the Albanian parties not to form a coalition with VMRO, but to support SDSM instead. So this was done by Ali Rama. We lived in the results of this meeting. So now the Albanian opposition, which orients toward Albin Kurti with also a nationalist message, but a more populist, kind of like left-wing nationalist mix. And a guy who is in a difficult fight with the US diplomats in the region because he's not apparently one of their players. And who also has a different kind of a feud with Ali Rama because Kurti wants to have a more independent place for Kosovo in the future, Greater Albania, while Ali Rama obviously thinks that Kosovo, if it unites into Greater Albania, it should be Albania leading this project. And then also there is an ethnic division because Ali Rama has more voters, more support in the ex-Christian, in the Tosk southern lowland region of Albania, while both the opposition in Albania and Kurti come from the more Geg, the other Albanian tribe, the Gegs, the more Muslim, the more hillside people of Albania. So they actually have a physical division within the Greater Albania project, and a political one, and also the Albanian opposition. And Kurti sense that all the power that Ahmeti has amassed in Macedonia, it's now a good time to challenge him and maybe take over some or all of this power by using very legitimate corruption scandals against him. So Kurti had over all the Albanian opposition parties, including one party, the latest party in this carousel. All of the Albanian opposition parties were in government with SDSM, but then left because they sensed that there is a lot of popularity to be made by attacking SDSM and DUI on corruption issues. So the last parties who joined the government lose their popularity. The first ones who left have an upswing. So Besa was with SDSM in the government, originally helped them win the 2020 elections, but now they're the first who left the government, and now they have the reputation of being leaders of the opposition. The other opposition Albanian party is the movement, the democratic movement, which left DUI. So they say, listen, we gave up on all the privilege of being in government with Ali Ahmeti. Now we expose his corruption. So they're all getting a lot of popular support, while the Alliance of Albanians has a lot of members in parliament, and this is why they were courted to join the government and bribed to join the government. They were given houses in Skopje, its leader, its deputy leader. But now they feel the pinch, losing support as part of the government, so now they want to rejoin the opposition. So even the alliance joined this meeting in Pristina, and they said, okay, Ahmeti is pushing for prime minister, we will challenge him on the office of president. We have never had an Albanian president of the country. The novelty of having an Albanian prime minister has worn off. So now we can...
Already?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now
One day, 24 hours later, the novelty wears off.
Yeah. Well, that was fun while it lasted. Yeah.
It's like a 5-year-old. My goodness.
But it's
gimme. Okay, you give it to him, and then 5 minutes later, gimme with something else.
Yeah, I'm done playing with this. No, but it's very shrewd because they figure, I think we discussed this the last episode as well. So SDSM needs to have a pre-election coalition with DUI. But we're also having presidential elections at the same time. So part of this deal would be that obviously DUI also supports the SDSM candidate for president. But if the Albanian opposition runs a candidate, then obviously even DUI voters, Albanians, would not like to vote for a Macedonian candidate from SDSM against an Albanian candidate. So it's possible that if the candidates are VMRO, SDSM, and an Albanian opposition presidential candidate, that the Albanian opposition will get a huge number of votes from the ethnic Albanians. And because we would have general election just 2 weeks later, it's possible that Albanian nationalists who might vote for DUI, but also want to vote for an Albanian presidential candidate, might split the ticket or maybe even join the Albanian opposition altogether in the second round. And at the very least, DUI will be shown as losing a huge chunk of the Albanian votes, at least in the first round of the presidential elections. So this is the message from Jim O'Brien telling the Albanian opposition, do not run your own presidential candidate, do not push so strongly against DUI, keep the Albanian vote unified. But obviously the Albanian opposition parties are challenging this idea. Ahmeti was in Pristina as well on the eve of this meeting. He was publicly rebuking Kurti for trying to organize a challenge against him. The next day, when Taravari, the leader of this Alliance of Albanians, which is neither here nor there, he returned to Skopje, immediately went to see Kovačevski, and then there is talk that DUI will try to engineer a coup in his party and depose him for challenging the government. So yeah, there is, but the funniest part is that the Tirana platform people, SDSM, Ali Ahmeti, Rama, are now complaining that we have a Pristina platform and they're protesting against other Albanian politicians in the region because they're interfering and meddling in Macedonia, trying to grab power for themselves.
Oh, yeah. Well, the old joke, the Albanians all want to be united in Greater Albania. The question is, where's the capital? Tirana, Pristina, or Tetovo? So,
or Skopje.
I want to read here, going back. That's a good analysis, by the way. Thank you. I think our listeners will appreciate that. On these opposition leaders who met with Kurti on Tuesday, because as you said, the novelty of an ethnic Albanian as prime minister in Macedonia had worn off after 24 hours, and this is, maybe you've been following this, Euronews Albania. I'm not sure who they are. I haven't delved into who supports them, etc. But they sure seem to churn out a lot of articles about Macedonia. But the article says, let's see. Okay, so this is an announcement from the Prime Minister of Kosovo. So this is his announcement, which says that the 4 leaders of the Albanian parties expressed their proposal for, quote, a president of Macedonia who embodies coexistence between ethnic groups and guarantees the European path of Macedonia, a president who this time should come from among the Albanians, unquote. I love that because it is just so childish and infantile and basically stupid. A president who should come from the Albanians. What does that even mean? I mean, where's the whole issue of, leadership and vision and proposals and all of the stuff that leaders are supposed to have for the good of the people of the entire country, not just one bloody ethnic group. It is just mind-boggling stupid that these people, this is the language that they put out. I mean, Kerbin's not an idiot. He's very urbane and, he's an atheist, as all good elites should be, and he's married to a Norwegian, and his God is himself, mankind, whatever, and so he should. I would think he would know better than to put out a statement that says the next president of Macedonia should be an Albanian because we need an Albanian. I mean, that's just mind-bogglingly, as Jonah Goldberg says, ass-achingly stupid. It's just kind of anyway. I don't get it, but oh well. Maybe this is just part of the politicking of it all.
No, it's a good plan to challenge DUI in the first round of the elections and break up this coalition between SDSM and DUI, which would destroy SDSM. And then, I think in the end, SDSM gave so much power to the Albanians that they're getting greedy. I mean, there are so many divisions and splits in the Albanian parties. Everybody wants to be to have like a group of 2 or 3 members of parliament because, SDSM literally gave free seats in the government, including powerful ones like the healthcare ministry with thousands of employees and hundreds of millions in budget, to a party which had 3 seats in parliament. Like they got one government department for 1 vote in parliament. It was ridiculous. They have SDSM over the barrel, and everybody's getting greedy. And it's going to be seriously a challenge for Vemera when they win the elections, if they are allowed to form a government by the Americans, to rein in the Albanians, to put them back into a realistic, give them a realistic share of power relative to their size of population and contribution to the economy. It's going to be,
right.
They have to fire like tens of thousands of Albanians from the public sector.
Public sector workers that do nothing, exactly, right, yeah.
Yeah,
it's the, I've repeated this on this podcast and my writings many times before, but the first dollar billionaire in the world was J. Paul Getty, the oilman, and the reporter asked him once, Mr. Getty, how much is enough? He responded, just $1 more. And my question for Macedonia's ethnic Albanian politicians, how much is enough? Just €1 more, just 1 more public sector job, just 1 more this, just 1 more that. There's never enough. It's insatiable. As a related, I noticed the Transparency International just put out, for what it's worth, their Corruption Perceptions Index. Macedonia has gone up just slightly in 2023, a score of 42. 0 is bad, 100 is great. But in 2020, just a few years ago, they were at 35. In 2019, they were at 35. In 2017, when they took over, they were 35. So they've gone up just a little bit, but still, I mean, and this is something, we like to bash the American and the EU ambassadors and the Dutch ambassador and everybody else, but they're correct when they point out the corruption problem in Macedonia, and yet they don't seem to be able to get any, no amount of State Department or Treasury Department blacklists seems to have any effect on DUI or SDSM. They just keep wallowing in corruption.
Yeah, Talat just removed the law that was going to make the U.S. blacklist essentially law in Macedonia. It would have mandated that our prosecutors have to begin a criminal investigation against an official of the government or whoever is named in a U.S. blacklist. And then Talat just withdrew the law, which is crazy by itself.
Wow. Seriously, this week?
Yeah.
I missed that. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Just now.
Huh.
One of his first move as prime minister, essentially.
Interesting. Okay.
But I don't know if it will be applied retroactively. It might even actually be helpful to the people on the list because, they would say, well, listen, these guys who were on the list already, we passed the law, but they were on the list before the law was passed, so, hey, we can't go after them. You cannot apply a law retroactively. It's possible that they're planning something like that.
Especially when Talat said that his mandate is just to prepare for free and fair and open and transparent elections, yada, yada, yada. So, and then he starts pulling shenanigans like that. Well, we'll see. I mean, again, going back to my ambassador, Angela Aguilar, who, keeps harping on corruption and whatnot. I don't know. I think she just says empty words nowadays, and it doesn't seem to mean anything. She doesn't seem to do much when it comes to this. Not that we want interference from the internationals. We, the United States, would like to see, countries take charge of their own affairs. But the problem is we keep interfering one way or the other, depending on, what the State Department seems to want at any given time. And that really confuses the situation. Okay, so we got elections. So he's there 100 days. We're counting down. Let's see, this is the second. So he's got 100 days. So he's got 95 days left. Elections are the 24th of April. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah. The 8th of May is the main
8th
event.
of May is presidential.
And then 2 weeks before that are the
I think it's
the first round of elections.
Okay, so which in itself is weird because the 8th of May is a Wednesday and Europeans always hold their elections on a Sunday. So that's going to be I guess everybody will get. I guess it'll be a public holiday, so everybody can go vote. Latest polls, of course, show Vomero far and ahead. But to your point earlier, will the U.S. State Department, will the EU, the vast EU foreign policy apparatus, allow Vomero to form an election? I suppose it depends on if Vomero gets 61 seats, which I think we've talked about this a couple of episodes back. It's going to be tough for them to pull that off, but 54, 55, 56, then we'll see. Any latest? Any polls come out this week?
So yeah, it was the Macedonian television poll. The ratio is like 2-1 between Vomero and SDSM. There was this funny poll from this Andrei Stojkovsky from the Prespa Institute, that ridiculous left-wing NGO guys. So they did like not a poll on the parties, but a poll on probability who will form the government, depending on all these shenanigans with post-election coalitions with the Albanians. And he said the ratio is like 96% chance that SDSM will form a government against 4% chance for Vomero. And everybody is taking the piss at this.
Now, interesting. Of course, you know what the odds were for Trump to win in 2016? 6%.
yeah, there was.
And he pulled, to use a poker term, he pulled an inside straight. So so maybe Vomero will pull an inside straight on this one. We'll see. So, any good news?
I mean, this is all good news. We are getting to the end game. We are getting to the final, to the razvrska, as we would say, to the epilogue. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, which way it goes. It's very possible we have like protracted technical government, inability to form a coalition, wait for the outcome of the U.S. elections, right? So we know that where we stand. It's even the Albanian opposition, even if they run a separate campaign after the elections, they might have conditions for Vomero which are going to be difficult. Even if the U.S. diplomats in the region allow Vomero to form a government, they will need some checks and balances in the form of a strong Albanian party in the coalition like DUI, or some strong guarantees from the Albanian opposition, which they mistrust because they don't like Kurti as well, their patron. So, but yeah, we're getting to the point where the government either has to go full totalitarian, do something extreme like the last times when we voted during COVID, and then we had the power go out in the State Electoral Commission on the eve of the vote. Open endorsement of the government by the US, by EU people. Like all these things that break the veil and lift the veil a little bit, which is all good. I mean, and then we might actually have an actual turnaround in power. Then there is also the threat that we may have a change of government, but as we are now, we have the new ministers. But for example, the new interior minister, he's immediately off. There were some interesting arrests. So there was a raid on the last day of Oliver Spasovski's term as interior minister. He raided Grčac, this Albanian village, notorious for drug smuggling. All the kingpins in this, I mean, this is European level cocaine smuggling. All the kingpins have fled in time. They tried to raid the village for 2 years. Several days before the raid, we could read on Twitter all about it. So everybody knew there. Yeah, it was very funny. But he tried to do something, and then the next day, just after Vomero appointed an interior minister, Panča Toškovski, a lawyer, close confidant of Mickovski, there were immediate arrests in the oncology clinic of doctors, directors linked to this horrible scandal of stealing cancer drugs, selling them to Kosovan. So they are now arrested, and there is like a more serious investigation into this. But also there is another announcement of what's to come. So Toškovski immediately went to the passport office which falls under the Interior Ministry, where we are forced until the 12th of February to take out new passports. So I will not be able to leave the country after the February 12th. Unless, if you don't have a passport that says North Macedonia on it, our own government is notifying the world that our passports are now invalid, even though you still have years on your passport. If the name is the Republic of Macedonia, our own government is telling other countries, do not let this person through, which is going to be a huge problem. About 1 million people, especially in Skopje, where you cannot get an appointment, you cannot physically get to the office. And then even if you finish having your picture taken and details and data, you cannot then pick up the finished passport. There are such huge crowds, even for the pickup of the completed documents.
Wow.
It's complete.
Wow.
So now the Vimera
That's
guy
10 days from now.
Yes, in 10 days, 1 million people in this country will not be able to leave the country.
Wow.
So the Vimera guy comes in, and then he does what Vimera people do, and says, okay, this is crazy, this is ridiculous. Immediately reassigning people from other places, moving them to this department. Police officers are volunteering to join this. Immediately the crowds go down. Puts in a system to have the documents shipped to your home so you don't have to wait for hours in line. Okay. And then he goes to meet the Greek ambassador and ask her, listen, something that both Pendarovsky and Kovacevsky refused to do, and ask her, can we postpone this? This is ridiculous. And then we have a response from Greece, no, fuck you. And then we also have an attack from the left, from the right, from the populist left, from Levica, which, very predictable, because, they say, okay, well, this is what we get with Vimera, just a more competent implementation of the Northernization project. They're not going to change things. They're just going to make the process ran more efficiently and smoothly. Nobody doubts that Vimera is the more competent party. But, the issue is we're going to elections. We don't want competence. We want to burn things down. We want to end these humiliations of the past 4 years, or 7-8 years. We don't want to have them implemented faster and better and, so this is a problem. We may have a Vimera government, but will it be able to change things?
Yeah.
To put the Albanians back in a realistic, have them hold a realistic share of power, and also put an end to the humiliations of Macedonians on the national issues. That's a problem.
Yeah, good point. Wow. Watch this space.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're running along. It's Friday. You need to get home. I need to get some work done. It's been a long time since we've done a farmer's pick, but I just pulled up a picture here, and I want to. We need to reinstitute this, and I've got something here I want to leave on a high positive note this Friday morning, Friday afternoon, for folks, especially for lovers of the vine. Macedonia makes some of the best wine in the world. I learned on my most recent trip, that Macedonia is the 20th largest producer of wine on planet Earth. Congratulations, Macedonia. And makes some fantastic wine. My friends at Wineberry on Metropolitan...
Not a sponsor.
Что? What?
Not a sponsor.
No, not a sponsor. No. But this is my farmer's pick. My friends at Wineberry on Metropolit Golaganov in Skopje sell wonderful wines from little wineries that you've never heard of, that most Macedonians have never heard of. But I picked up a couple of bottles and brought them back. The Naumchevi Cabernet Sauvignon Barrique and the Popov Kratoshia Reserve. Both big, bold, beautiful Macedonian wines. Both of them come in at 15%. Very fruit forward, just really will grab you, and you'll enjoy them. So if you're a wine drinker, go to Wineberry in Skopje and ask Jadranka for those wines if she has them. If she doesn't, she'll get them for you, and sample some of the other ones that are there as well. So you will enjoy. Have Have you been to Wineberry?
No, not yet. No.
Okay. I got to take you on the next trip, though. On my
Yeah.
next trip. Or just go in the meantime. Take your wife. My goodness. Go on
Yeah.
a date night. So, yeah. So.
Will do.
All right. That was a good wrap-up, a good analysis, and we'll check back in a week or two and see where we are.
Urima, as the Albanians would say now.
Whatever.
As the Americans
Whatever.
would say.
Whatever. So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Good talking to you.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.